Palden Choje Lama Rinpoche, Dagi Jiwo Pede Tension La, Kadin Chimpo Kone Jisong. Kusong to Kingoto Zando, so Jaza Watan, Chujin Shabatan, Jesu Iran, Kushin Sowa. Kewa Chungsen Dagi Jisaba, Tamje Zobe Jancho Chemo, Sa Shin, Peju Jushin Method. Rejablin Shin de Kimba de Sange Shin to make the Pulwai, Togo Namda Shin La Chepa, Show, Simjan Namki Sambat. Loye cheta chitawa chijun tumo tepai chegi kolo korto so. Tashi Delek everyone. And today we are talking on the visualization practice. And obviously all of you who have entered the Buddha Dharma, you have definitely seen lots of images of the Buddha, of the deities, of the Bodhisattvas, and so many of these highly beings. So you might have seen a statue, because every time you go into a temple or in a monastery, you will definitely see a statue of a Buddha, or maybe in some cases, you might see a painting like in a tanka, or maybe you will see like a painting on the walls like that. And then not only Buddha, but we also have all these statues and pictures or tankas of so many different other deities. Like we have for white Tara, we have like for green Tara, Chandrisik, like Avalokiteshvara, I think in Sanskrit, in Tibetan we say Chandrisik, and we have Manjushri, and so many of these. And we can do visualization practice on all of this. And other than that, we also have like visualization on shamatha practice and vipassana practice. And in shamatha practice, what we do is, that is also a sort of visualization, because sometimes when we talk about visualization, people don't think that shamatha practice is a visualization practice. Because when we are doing the shamatha practice, sometimes we can do the shamatha practice with a focal support. Like in front of us, we can put an image of the Buddha. And if we have an image of the Buddha, that is also good. And sometimes if you don't have like an image of a Buddha or some like deities, then what we can do is we can have anything as an object of support when we are doing the shamatha practice. So when we are doing that, that is also a visualization practice. And normally people tend to, I think, not consider that as a visualization, because whenever people talk about visualization, they tend to think about like certain beings that we visualize. But visualization we can do on a stone, we can do on a deity, we can do on a stick or whatever. It is just like a support for our visualization, because when we don't have a support, then we don't know, or we are not able to identify that when we are losing our awareness. Because when we are doing visualization on something, like for example on a stone, then when we are focusing on that, visualizing on that, and as soon as we have a different kind of thought, like maybe I am thinking about what I'm going to eat tonight, then we know that, oh, I'm getting distracted from my visualization. So again, I have to bring back my thought back to the stone. And if I'm visualizing on a Buddha, then again, that is like a support for our awareness. So I keep on visualizing on the Buddha. And then again, after a while, maybe I'm thinking, oh, tonight with whom I am going out with, like that. Or maybe tomorrow. Sometimes we think about tomorrow. Sometimes we think about the past. Sometimes maybe we are thinking about 2 years later, like that. And as soon as we remember that, or as soon as we are able to identify that, then again we back to our visualization, whichever we are visualizing. So we can visualize on a statue, or sometimes we also visualize or practice on our breath, Sometimes we visualize on something just in front of us like that. And we can do anything as, keep anything as a support. And since we are all like little ignorant, and we believe most of us believe like there is a higher beings, that is why we tend to visualize on maybe a deity or maybe a Buddha. But actually, whether we are visualizing on a stone or whether we are visualizing on these deities, actually there is not much difference. But because we think that, oh, when I visualize on a deity, then it is bringing me so much blessing. So that is why, because of that attachment, most of the time, we tend to visualize on a deity. And when we are doing a practice on deity, so in the beginning, we can just visualize on that. And normally, when we are practicing visualization, that is little higher kind of practice. And sometimes we tend to forget that there are different levels of practicing. And we go right deep into the main part of practicing, and then we don't see so much improvement in our practice. Because, for example, most of us think that, oh, I've been a Buddhist for maybe 20 years or maybe 30 years. And for most of us, like in the Asian belt, maybe because of our parents are Buddhists, so we are born Buddhists. And if you are 30 years old, then you have been Buddhist for 30 years old. If you are 40 years old, then you have been Buddhist for 40 years old. And then you think that, oh, I've been Buddhist for 30 years, I've been Buddhist for 40 years, and I don't see any improvement in my visualization or in my practice. And we think that, oh, maybe the practice doesn't have any benefit like that. But we have to reconsider how much time we are putting in our practice. Just saying that I'm a Buddhist doesn't help much. We have to put into our practice. And we do tend to receive so much teaching, but we go to the class, we read, and then we don't practice. And that is also not going to help so much. What we need to do is we need to put into practice all the teachings that we have received. And like I normally give example. So even when someone to like have a gold medal in swimming for maybe even the Asian competition, people tend to like practice for like at least 3 hours a day or maybe 4 hours a day only in the swimming pool. And then there's like maybe 1 hour in the gym, or maybe after the swimming there's like maybe half an hour of maybe massage or whatever there. So in a day they put like maybe 6 hours, maybe 7 hours. I'm not exactly sure how much they put, but maybe they put like at least 5-6 hours a day. And then they do it for like, since maybe they are practicing since 9 or maybe 8 or maybe like 11, 12. And then they practice 5 hours every day or maybe 6 hours every day for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. And then some of, in rare cases, maybe when they are like 18, but most of the time it's when they are 22, 23, 24, and they have been practicing for the last 12, 15 years for 5 hours every day. And then finally they are able to like receive a gold medal in the Asian competition or maybe in the Olympic, like that. And here what we are doing is we are not even practicing 5 minutes a day. And then we think that we have been practicing for the last 30 years, 40 years, and then we don't see any result or in our visualization. And we tend to say that, oh, visualization is not important, practicing is not important. I have been practicing for the last 30 years, 40 years, but I don't see any improvement. And we have to know getting enlightenment is way more difficult than getting a gold medal in an Asian Games or maybe an Olympic Games. And when they are putting so much effort and we are not even putting that much effort in our practice, and we are thinking about getting enlightenment, and which is almost impossible. So we have to know that we have to put in more effort in our practice in visualization. And then when we are visualizing in a deity, so for example, if we are visualizing on Avalokiteshvara, or in Tibetan we say Chenresik. So we don't see the Chenresik as Genesis only. We see that Genesis as an embodiment of our root guru or our main teacher. Because what happens is normally when we see our root guru or when we see our guru, we see them as someone who is not perfect. We see them getting old, we see them getting sick, we see sometimes maybe we might see them getting angry like that. But if we have like that thought, then that is little not so pure thoughts about Guru. So what we do is we visualize our Guru as maybe a Chenrezig. So when we are doing Chenrezig, so the appearance is Chenrezig, but the main person inside is our Guru. If we are visualizing on Green Tara, then the appearance is Green Tara, but it is the embodiment of our Guru. So we have to know that. And then when we do the practice, so that will make us have more devotion to our Guru and also to the Yidam that we are practicing or the deity that we are practicing, whether it is Chenrezig, Green Tara or whatever deity. And sometimes people think that we have to visualize the whole body of the Chenrezig. And for us, maybe when there's a Thangka, it might be okay. And sometimes it is not only, you don't need to have like image in front, but you can mentally construct an image. And even if you have an image in front, or even if you are mentally constructing an image, and it doesn't have to be like the full image. So sometimes you can visualize on the feet, sometimes you can just visualize on the lotus, and then gradually you can improve. So first you start with the lotus, you visualize on that today, you visualize on that tomorrow, and then when you try to visualize that without having an image, if you see it clearly, then you can slowly improve. Then you can start with because on top of the flower you can normally see a moon disk. You can add that, and then slowly when you get improvement in that, you can add the feet, and then maybe the body, the hand, like that. Normally what we do is we think and we lie to ourselves that we are visualizing the whole deity. We do that this year, we do that next year, we do that after 5 years, we do that after 10 years. And we think that we have been practicing for 10 years, 20 years. And even people who have been practicing for 10, 20 years with not much proper guidance from a teacher. And after 10 years or 15 years, when you ask them, oh, how does the crown on Green Tara looks like? They are not able to tell you properly. If you ask them whether it is made of gold or it is made of silver or it is just a metal, what kind of stones it has in the crown, whether the stone is blue in color, whether it is green in color, whether it is red in color, most of them will definitely not be able to answer. And then not only the crown, they are like anklets, they are bracelets, and they are like small bells, long bells, they are like necklaces. And if you ask them, how does the necklace look like? The stones on the necklace, what color is it? I think most of them will not be able to answer properly because they keep on like lying to themselves that, oh, I'm practicing the whole Chenrezig, I'm practicing the whole Green Tara. And then they don't see any improvement. And after 10 years, after 15 years, it's still the same. But if you like gradually improve your visualization, so today you start with lotus flower, and then tomorrow you try. If it is not clear, you continue with the lotus flower. If it takes like 1 week, 1 month, 10 months, or maybe 1 year, 2 years, you just focus on the lotus flower. And then maybe after 1 year, or maybe depending on our capabilities, some of us might be able to do it in a week, some of us in a month, some of us in a year, some of us maybe will take more, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. And then after that, when we are like completely perfect in visualizing the lotus flower, then we add maybe the moon disk. And then the second part is going to be extremely easy. It is not going to take like the first one. Like if you took 10 years for the lotus flower, the moon disk is not going to take like that. It will be very easy. And then you just add the feet, and then the face, the body, whatever, the things the Chenrezig is holding, maybe the mala, the jewel, the flower, whatever it is. and then it becomes very easy to see your improvement. But when you are just lying to yourself saying that I'm visualizing the whole deity, and you do it for 1 day, 5 days, 1 year, 2 years, you will never see any improvement. So it is very important that you gradually improve your visualization. And when you have like an thing to measure, then it is much easier to meditate. So most of us, instead of like doing the whole deity, it is very important to start from just the lotus and then keep on adding more and more. And then we will be able to see more improvement in our visualization. And this visualization, as we do, there are lots of benefit. So here it's a very like short and maybe quite short, just a guidance on the visualization, but how to do it much in a more advanced way. I'm pretty sure you need to have a proper teacher, proper guidance, and they will be able to lead you in your practice. And yeah, we will stop here for this part, and thank you.
And Choje Lama, is visualization a checkpoint for awareness?
It is like checkpoint for our awareness, actually. But once we are advanced, then it will be a little different. But for us, it is like checkpoint for awareness. So whenever we are visualizing, and if we are visualizing on generosity, as soon as our mind wanders away, so that reminds us that we are wandering away. So it is like that, actually.
So when I'm doing business, I was greedy to earn more money.
Yeah.
So is this a kind of poisons, or I attach to it to earn so much money can be a kind of poison? So how can I balance it?
It is extremely difficult to balance, actually. And normally when we go to a public teaching, we tend to hear we can balance. But actually it is extremely difficult, because when we are talking about like in our general holy life, whatever we do, we are looking at the result in this life. And in the dharma, whatever we are doing is for the next life. We are not doing for this life. And the minimum criteria of a good practitioner is thinking about next life. That is the minimum criteria to be a good practitioner. And we tend to think that we are a very good practitioner, but we hardly believe that next life exists. It is even very difficult for us to believe fully that there is a next life. But actually the least criteria that someone needs to have to consider themselves as a practitioner is so that I can have a good life in my next life. And whatever we do, if we think properly, it's only for this life. Whether we are looking for a job, whether we are looking for salary, more benefit, more profit. And these two cannot match at all, actually. That's what is the truth. But then for beginners, maybe it is impossible to leave everything aside. So what we can do is we can have some pure motivation and think that, oh, whenever I have something extra, then maybe I will be able to help the underprivileged people, or maybe animals that are suffering, or maybe make some offerings like that. That will like maybe lessen the bad karma. But again, to have that kind of thoughts is also extremely difficult for us, because normally whatever we are doing, if we check properly, most of the things we do it for the benefit of ourselves most of the time. And normally we just sweet talk that, oh, it is for the other beings, other animals, underprivileged. But most of the time, even when we are practicing, we are practicing for my own benefit most of the time. And other thing, we don't have to say. Even when we are receiving teaching, we are thinking that, oh, I will gain more knowledge. Even when we are meditating, we think that, oh, I am going to gain enlightenment. And even these practices, when we are doing it for ourselves, then definitely the business that we are doing, the work we are doing, the positions that we want to have, I'm pretty sure everything we are thinking it for ourselves. But when somebody tells, like I said, it's quite difficult to acknowledge. But when we try to think more deeply, then most of the time we do know that we are only thinking about this life.
I think that's very refreshing to have such honesty from a spiritual teacher, right? About the spiritual path is not easy, and people, it's good to say it. It's good. Lama is telling us, in a, just straight, no sugar coating the reality that, it is very, we often do things for selfish reasons to benefit ourselves. And I think we need to be honest with ourselves. Otherwise, even the spiritual practice itself becomes inauthentic, because we'll be always, in our daily lives, we'll always be convincing ourselves that, oh, I did this for your own good. I did this, not because I'm selfish or something like that. I think we all know a few people like that.
It is, in the example that we have in the text, is like our life is like a hollow pipe, maybe I can say a pipe, or maybe a straw. So if you put in a small rice grain or maybe a pebble, so it has to come from one of the end. So one end is, if it falls down, it is like thinking for this life, and the other part is like for the next life. It cannot be both. If you throw a stone, it has to fall from either down or from the other side here. So we cannot mix both of them. And normally we tend to hear so many times that, oh, we are doing both of them, but it is extremely rare cases.
The four poisons, it was actually something new to me that you mentioned. Pride and jealousy are also considered in these three poisons, but I haven't really heard about this before. But I think pride, especially jealousy, is actually everywhere around us, even among close friends or maybe at workplace. It's something that we have to deal all the time. And how does Buddhism see jealousy, and what is the best way to overcome this poison?
So jealousy is also a part of both attachment and anger. So first, it is a part of attachment because we love ourselves, all of us. We think, I need to be the best, I need to have a good life, everything that is good needs to be with me. And then when we see someone having maybe a better job, or maybe a better physical appearance, maybe a better house, better car, whatever, and then we get jealous. So that is because we have attachment to ourselves. And when we see someone else getting more, then we get jealous. So it is sometimes part of attachment. And then when we get jealous, we get angry. So every time we see someone, when they have, like maybe most of the time, when they have something that they don't deserve from our point of view, maybe they do deserve, but we think that, oh, maybe he or she doesn't deserve that, maybe car, that house, whatever. And then we get jealous, and then we get angry. So it is both attachment and anger. So most of the time we don't write 5 poisons. Most of the times we do see like 3 poisons. And sometimes in little detailed way, we see 5 poisons. And people tend to think that it is easier to understand when we are talking less. When we say only 3 poisons, maybe it is easier to understand. Like even when we are practicing, when like if you go to a center, if there's a practice, if you practice Mahakala practice, there's a short practice, there's a long practice, and then a very long practice like that. Like at least 3 different duration or 3 different length of practices. And we think that, oh, I don't have so much time, so the shortest one is easiest. And we think that, oh, shortest one is the best for me. And even in these poisons, when we talk about 3, we think that is the easiest way to understand. But actually, it is not like that. The short one is for the highly realized students. And the longer ones are actually for someone like us who have so much ignorance, so much attachment, because everything is in detail there. And even when we are practicing Mahakala, the long one has so much in detail. And the short one is very very in shortened constrict, or I forgot the word. Yeah, where it is condensed. Yeah, everything is condensed. Yeah. So actually the short one is for the better students, the highly educated students, and the long ones are for us. But then these days, all of us think that, oh, I don't have so much time. Short one is very easy to understand, so I'll practice. Even when we practice Chenrezig, we practice the shortest one. Even when we practice Mahakala, we practice the shortest one. And then in the short, there is not much description. It will just say, there's Mahakala with 2 hands. And we have to understand everything, what the 2 hands are holding, how he is standing, how he is sitting, if he or she is standing on something, or maybe some other guy like that. But when we practice the longer one, it has everything, what he is holding on his right hand, what he is holding on his left hand, and then everything is in so detail. And like that. So even for like practitioner, so if you are doing sales, so if you are a very good salesperson, then the owner of the shop can just say, oh, you just work in your office and you gain some profit, and we will understand everything, yeah. But if someone is just starting new in the profession, that is not going to help. You have to teach them everywhere, everything, how to speak to a customer, how to behave to a customer, how to stand when you are talking, how to behave when there is no customer in the shop, and everything. And the advice from the boss is going to be very long when there is someone new. When someone is very old, the advice is just going to be very short. Or you stay in the store and make some profit, that's it. And the store person will understand. And just like that, it's the same with the practice. The long ones we need to practice, like 5 poisons, most of us, and because we tend to go the shorter route all the time, and we tend to forget. And we need to know that, oh, but these are all do come under attachment and anger. And when we know properly, but still it is okay. But sometimes we tend to forget when we are always doing the shortest format, I guess.
Yeah, and sorry, I have another question. So just now you talk about the second one is about visualization, and is visualization a kind of meditation, or it's a visualization and meditation? They are different, and they have different purposes or different way of practice. And also, if we want to approach Vajrayana Buddhism, when can we start practicing visualization? Can we just start on our own, or we need to have a teacher or guru to show us a way, and also even explain to us which idam you should practice?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Visualization, we can start normally like Chenrezig and Grintara, but we do need to have a teacher. It is compulsory to have a teacher. And visualization is meditation. There is no any difference, because as soon as because obviously when we create all these images, these are all just support for our meditation and for our awareness. And most I can say, doesn't sound right, but if we think properly, there doesn't exist a person with 100 arms, 1,000 arms, more than that, 10 heads, 5 heads, like that. These are all our creation. And we are using that as a support for our meditation. And we are trying to gain so much knowledge because all this represents so many different things. But again, when we say that, sometimes people think that, oh, these are useless. But that is also not the case, because when we draw 4 heads, there is a reason behind that. When we draw 11 heads, there is a reason behind that. When we draw 1,000 arms, there is a reason behind that. And everything has a reason. And but when we look in a very easy way, maybe there is not going to be much meaning. But when we learn properly, then all this visualization has a purpose. Like, for example, when we do if I say like this, then actually this doesn't have any meaning. But we all know that when we do like this, someone is calling you to come here, yeah? This doesn't have meaning, but there is something behind that. When someone does like this, we have to know that, oh, actually just like this, there's nobody's saying anything. But we, from our back of our mind, we understand, oh, he or she is calling me. Sometimes it might be rude, but still, yeah, there is like this symbol. And just like that, deities also, when we see black colored deity, there is some meaning behind that. When we see a white colored deity, there is a reason behind that. When we see like 4 hand, there is a reason. And all this have reason. And then when we have a teacher, then he or she is going to able to guide us very properly. Because when we are doing any kind of visualization, there needs to be 3 main aspects. The first one is clear visualization. And people tend to, again, misidentify when they talk about clear visualization. They think that it needs to be very HD, very good picture in HD quality. Like suppose, for example, that doesn't have to be the case. If the picture is taken by maybe 20 years, maybe 15 years back, if it is taken by one of those Nokia phones, it is not going to be very clear, yeah, the picture. The image is not so sharp. But when you look, you are seeing it very clearly. It is clear. Maybe the picture is not sharp, but you are seeing it clearly. And that is also a clear visualization. Sometimes people only think that when you see it like a perfect HD quality, then that is only clear visualization, but that doesn't have to be. Even if the image is little blurry, if you see that blurry, that is also clear. You are seeing it clearly, yeah, even though it is blurred. So we have to know that. So that is the first one, seeing clearly. Number 7. And then the Namdak Timba, or knowing the meanings. And all these have a meaning. So if they are wrathful, that has a meaning. If they are peaceful, it has a meaning. If they are standing, it has a meaning. If it is sitting, it has a meaning. If it is holding something, any kind of object they are holding, that has a meaning. And we have to know that. And then the last part is having pride. And when we are visualizing, so here pride is different from the pride from the 5 poisons. Knowing that that deity is me. So sometimes there are different practices. We visualize deity in the front, and we call that front visualization. And we believe that, normally we tend to believe that all these images that we create in our mind, when we create a Buddha, it is higher, not like me, yeah, it is something very high level of being. So that is why we tend to do front visualization. And then we take the blessing, and then we visualize ourselves as the Buddha or whatever. And then we have to take pride that the one in the front is me, or maybe the one who is practicing the deity is me. There is no difference between me and the Hidam. So that kind of pride is different from the normal pride. So these 3 needs to be there. And when we don't have a teacher, it is very difficult to understand all this. And there is no any difference between like meditation and this is meditation. Just because there is some extra visualization doesn't mean that even if you do freestyle, that is swimming. Even if you do backstroke, that is swimming. Even if you do whatever kind of swimming, these are all swimming. Yeah, just different ways of swimming. So these are all visualizations, just like that. Tempe balgyo kama lotu shap chobe sambo yunden kakyabdu beshin shabe tatin shedu tinle chole namgya balba sho sonam de tamche sepani thomne nyebe tanam pamche kega nache balap tubai sibe chole do wa sho